What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening. I wanted to put this in the top of the show. Make sure you subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/Brennan Tassif. Check out the merch store at brennantcomedy.com to get your ex-drinking buddy merch. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. As always, we're coming to you live from Gotham Production Studios, and I hope you enjoy the episode.
Grab me your beer and grab me a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the program, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do, hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of crazy trouble, and then reminisce about those fun stories. I am sober now, but that is still one of my favorite things to do, hang out with someone and reminisce about the crazy old days. Most weeks I will be joined by a guest. This week is no exception! All the way from New York City via New Zealand, Matt Hansell!
Hello. What's going on, man?
What's up, buddy?
Not much. The weather is not great.
No, it's snowing out. There's a storm outside.
Yeah,
it's
no,
snow.
I'm not. I feel like I've been pretty lucky this winter with like snow, but no, it's
How
not.
long have you been in New York?
A little over a year.
Okay. Yeah, I moved July 21, and then that winter last year, it was a ton of snow. And everyone's like, this is the most snow the city's ever seen.
Yeah. No.
And I was stoked because being from the South, I had never seen like snow before like that.
See, I was quickly over it.
Yeah, you were just like, I'm done.
I'm from California. It's like, no, I don't need this.
What is this slush?
I mean, I understand. Like, for me, it was like
You understand the concept of snow?
Yeah, like I never saw snow until I was like 18, 19. And then I saw it, and I was like, it's cold. Yeah, for sure. I get it.
Plug everything up front before I forget. I know you have the podcast, you've got the show that you do, and then all your social media. Let everybody know where they can find you.
You can find me at matthansell.biz. That's Hansell with 2 L's and then .biz. You know how to spell it. You can check me out on Common Enemies, which is my podcast. And then I'm also producing a show with Noah Snyder and Josh Semensky here in New York City at KGB Bar. That is called Kiwi Bagel. We've already sold 10% of our tickets for the next show, and we've barely even promoted it. So get them while they're still available.
Get them while they're hot.
Yeah.
Or else your ass is gonna see Matt in your fucking Instagram feed.
Yep, I'm gonna be there, and it's gonna be.
You do the funniest stuff for that.
My thing is like,
but it's just like the most like you just throw your phone up and you're just like, hey everybody, get your fucking tickets.
Well, it's like, I don't know, you gotta capture the attention of, I don't know, so many people. Just do.
I like the sunglasses this morning. That was a fun one.
Yeah, no, you gotta, I don't know, be silly. Why try and be like all like suit and tie about it? Why not?
Yeah, have fun.
Yeah.
Tell everybody about Common Enemies. What's the podcast about?
It's a 2-part podcast, somewhat similar to yours, where it's the first part is like talking about something we have in common. So it could be anything. So it'll be, for one episode it was parties, so just like talking about parties.
Mm-hmm.
Or one episode it was poop and like what the trials and tribulations and all sort of poop stories. And then the second half is a debate. So you sort of come closer together, and then, you know, as good friends do, you're more like able to like sort of go.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great idea. That's a fun concept.
Yeah. And then there's debates. It could be as simple as like black versus white suit or like something like that.
Thought you were going somewhere else with that.
Nope. Not yet. We had to wait.
I did see you had Ryan Thomas on, so I didn't know if.
Yeah, that episode was great.
Was that the poop one?
No, him and I talked about Little League.
Okay.
And then how would you rather die, being murdered or overdosing?
Overdosing. Not even a question.
I said murder.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
Because I think that in my head, I feel like there is like maybe like a somewhat of like a martyrdom to being murdered a little bit.
Okay.
Where there's like...
Oh, so you're looking at it from how the outside world will perceive the death.
Maybe. Or like the lead up to it. Like
Yeah.
I'm thinking like Walter White Breaking Bad, where it's like you're doing all this crazy shit, people are coming for your head, you're the fucking man, and then they fucking, you know, pop you at the end, and it's like this almost like blissful moment. So yeah, I don't know. That was like,
I like that. That's a good idea.
I think I honestly did give Ryan Thomas the win for that debate, but it was still fun.
He said overdose.
Yeah.
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 Me and Ryan. He's a friend of the show. I wanted to talk to you because you do have you don't talk about it nearly as much. And I know I talk about it. I have a bit about it on stage, but the listeners know I played college football and I was a scout team, like never touched the field. But if you don't know that, you'd think I was like the fucking starting all conference like fullback. You have some cool things in your past, but you like barely talk. You like kind of almost mention it just in passing. So like you lived in New Zealand for a long time.
Around a year.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah.
You're not just visiting.
Yeah, no.
And we're talking New Zealand, not Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So many questions. But first of all, let's talk about how you got to New York and got into comedy. Did you move to New York for comedy?
Pretty much.
When did you start doing comedy?
So I started before the pandemic.
Okay.
Did it for...
Where was this at?
This was actually in San Luis Obispo, California.
Okay, because you're from California.
Yeah, I was going to a community college there. Had just quit rugby. I'd played rugby for 7 years. Kind of in an aimless spot. And
do you play club?
Yeah, most college rugby teams are all technically club. Mm-hmm. There's like 5 that do
That's how it was at FAU, yeah. FAU was a club team, and then I'm from Daytona, which had one of the best club teams in the state of Florida. In fact, Dallas Baker, who played for the national team, was on the Daytona rugby team. I only know that because, Perry Baker.
Yeah,
I only know that because we played high school football together.
Oh, word.
Mm-hmm. He was a wide receiver.
Yeah, he's fucking unreal.
Yeah, his older brother Dallas played at the University of Florida. They called him Dallas Baker, the touchdown maker. And then Perry ended up not getting really recruited by big schools, even though his brother played at the University of Florida, and then picked up rugby. Years later, I heard a sports podcast, and they were talking about like this all-star rugby guy, and then Perry Baker, and I was like, wait. My Perry Baker?
Yeah, no, he's one of my favorite sevens players. So there's like 2 versions of rugby where it's 15-7. Sevens is like smaller, faster guys. Mm-hmm. He's unreal. Like he's one of my favorite players I've ever seen.
That's insane.
No, yeah, it's small world.
He the thing I'll never forget is he got me on the phrase because I was a white kid from the suburbs, but I went to school and my school was just outside of Daytona, and there was a lot of kids from, the Daytona area there. He got me on the phrase, he on that powder, which I didn't know what that meant. But our coach was like always super fucking hyped up, Coach Zito. And he'd always be like, Coach, you on that powder? And I never knew what it meant, but I loved saying it. And then later on when I would try cocaine, I was like, oh.
I feel like that was very indicative of me as well, where it's like I'd hear something, I'd like the way it sounded, and then I'd just say it.
Yeah.
For like years, and then I'd circle back around. Like there was one time where I saw a kid. So I went to middle school. We had this like program where like all the special needs kids would like do like little farming classes.
Okay.
We had like a small little like.
This is in Northern California.
Yeah,
okay.
like chicken coop and like it was cool.
Yeah.
But in like 6th grade, I saw one of the kids choking a chicken and didn't realize that choking a chicken was like reference or innuendo for masturbating.
Yeah.
So I came home and I was like, yeah, Mom, I saw one of the special needs kids choking his chicken at school today. And I was just like, I knew they laughed, but they weren't going to like explain all of that. And I was like, I guess I'm just going to say choking my chicken now. Just like, I guess it's just going to be
because you got a reaction from them. So you're like, oh, I guess this is just the thing I'll say now.
This is enough for me. I'll keep this in my back pocket.
What got you into rugby in California?
My dad played and like it had been around.
Is he from New Zealand?
He's from New Zealand,
Okay.
So it'd been around me all like my life.
So you knew about it,
yeah, and I played high school football, but I didn't like play growing up, so I didn't. Like I played to, I don't know, it was like a little bit of like a challenge to myself. I was always a smaller kid, but I always felt like I was a pretty good athlete, but I was small, so I never played.
Well, especially in California, Texas, and Florida, the 3 biggest states for football. So it's just a way to kind of indoctrinate yourself with everybody else.
Yeah, no, it was a big social group too going into high school. I never loved the football culture really, but
can I tell you a secret?
Yeah.
When I started playing football, I couldn't stand it.
Yeah, I mean,
I was like, this hurts.
Yeah,
like everyone's screaming at me all the time to start because I'm a big. It's still to this day, I'm a big baby. Like I'm a big softie, But then once I hit my growth spurt and kind of came into my own, and then I could hurt other people, I was like, oh no, now this is fun. But that was like 4 years into playing.
Yeah. No.
So for the first 4 years, I was like, I hate this so much.
Unless you're the guy that is like making plays or like laying hits, like something like that, I really don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, I played offensive line, so I was just like, this is miserable.
Like my best friend played center, and it's like every play he just like throws his head up from snapping the ball, and there's some 250-pound guy pushing him like in his neck and like throwing him back, and it's like I occasionally get to like catch a ball and run.
What, you played slot?
Yeah, slot and corner.
Okay. And then did you do all 4 years?
No. So I started a rugby club with my friends in high school.
Okay.
And well, they started, and then I brought the like JV team in.
Okay.
As a sophomore.
Okay, there we go.
And so it was just like once I had rugby instead, and I still got like that sort of contact, like rough sport in my life. I didn't really feel the need for.
Well, and plus you're better at. I would assume with your build, you'd be better at rugby.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, also like there was just it came much more naturally too. It'd been around me too, so I kind of always had a rugby ball around. But yeah, I love the rugby culture. It's a lot more like. Sort of like fraternal and like, you know, it's a big part of rugby is like the community aspect to it. Whereas football, it was like much more militant and less room for like creativity. Whereas rugby, there's like, it's kind of free flowing. You can play around with it. You can fuck around. It's nice.
Yeah. And that was the thing. I played football my whole, like from 7th grade through college. And then everybody listening knows, but when I got my 8th concussion, like going into my junior year, I stopped playing. So it was a weird thing to like not play anymore. But I remember in the off seasons, FAU had a rugby club and a couple, again, small world, Tobin Thompson, shout out, one of my buddies that I went to high school with. He was like 3 years ahead of me, but we played football on the same team. And then he was on the FAU rugby team. So he came to me when I was a freshman at FAU and he was like a junior. He came to me and he's like, you should do rugby. And I was like, no, like I play football. Like I'm not going to do it. But then in the off season, I was like, oh, this is actually a great way to stay in shape. And the thing I liked about it was football. There's, like you said, it's militant. There's so much to it. Like even just to have a practice, there's so much to it. And then if you're like, oh, well, we'll just like the quarterback will go out with the skills guys and just throw. It's like, yeah, that sounds good, but like it's not the same.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to just throw the ball. It's another thing to throw it when you have pads on and you're going against someone else. So, again, it's not even the same thing. But for rugby, they would just literally roll balls out and be like, all right, we're just going to scrimmage.
Yeah, no, you're there.
And I was like, what? And then when I would go home to Daytona, because Daytona had one of the better club teams in Florida, it was the same. There was no practice. You would just scrimmage for hours.
Yeah, no, the only way to get good at playing rugby is playing rugby.
Yeah, and that was the thing. And I was like, oh, this is so much more fun than like line it up. Here we go. You know, I write 236 power O, and then with rugby, you're just like, all right, let's go.
No, I mean that's why like you do pick it up and you sort of run with it, and I always felt like there was just more room to like play around like and to learn it in like a different like that's why I like appreciate comedy too in a way is you only get better by doing it and like feeling it, where it's like. I feel like in football, it's like you sort of remembering like almost like formulas or recipes to how the game works. Whereas rugby, you're like, all right, like I've tried it this way 3 times. If I maybe like fake here and then like give the ball, like there's different ways to like attack it, sort of like, and there's like picking up those reads along the way, and you only get it by doing it and like.
Well, you have more opportunities too because it's a free flowing game. Whereas with football, you get the one play. And that's the one play, and then you line it all, and then everyone can reset.
Yeah.
But in rugby, because it's so free flowing, you can, you know, kind of think on the fly.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you because rugby culture obviously has a lot of like, you know, the shoeies and the drinking and the. Sure. So when you guys were playing in high school, because you're only a sophomore, was that a part of it? Was your dad because he was a rugby player and stuff? Was he a big like beer drinker and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, I mean, my dad is.
I'm just thinking in my head like a New Zealand guy who moved to California. He's like, you know, you're like 6 years old and he's like, hey, Matty, let's do a drink.
He's a good time. I wouldn't say he's like the biggest drinker in the world, but it's his thing is like he just loves a good party. He loves like the people being around and hanging out aspect more than anything. But like he can throw a few back for sure.
Absolutely. So when you started the rugby club,
We there was still a party aspect to it.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask.
The good thing about rugby, especially in like younger groups, is that you're really getting kids that aren't really in the other main sports at the time. So it's a pretty ragtag group.
Yeah.
But what that means is a lot of times it's like kids who like are partying in high school and are like sort of getting down with it. So we would have like a couple, like 2 or 3 houses that we could like go to after games on the weekend or something like that to throw down. And it was...
Now, when you say that, are you guys like drinking and having a good... Because I've had a lot of different guests on, and it ranges from like we had Ethan on last week who didn't really start drinking until he was 21. And then I've had a few guests on where they started drinking at like 8.
Whoa, no.
So it's like, well, no. So I'm saying there's a big. So when you say you guys would throw down, like go to houses and throw down, are you drinking? Are you all just hanging out? Is it a social aspect, or is it like a party?
Drinking and smoking. It's drinking and smoking.
Yeah. So you're doing this as a sophomore?
Yeah, 15.
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, there was like, I don't know. It was there was never got too out of hand. There was one party where it did, but some dude.
Tell us. Let's get into it.
Some dude drank his like dad's moonshine, thinking that he could handle it.
What? How old are you? Is this at the beginning, like when you guys are 15, or is this
I want to say I'm 15, maybe 16 at this point.
Okay, so this is like maybe a year into the rugby club.
Yeah, I think this is like a summer party. So this is just like we're all friends, but it's not like during the season. But he drank it and then went to go throw up and then broke his nose on the toilet.
What?
And then was like throwing up and then like bleeding into the toilet.
Oh God!
And then like fell back and like was throwing up and like bleeding all over himself.
Oh my God!
So me and 3 friends had to strip him butt ass naked and like shower him off and then have his like ex-girlfriend come pick him up, and his ex-girlfriend's fucking yelling. So then we call his mom instead, and then his mom and his ex-girlfriend are yelling in the front yard. And this is like in a quiet neighborhood in Napa, and like
God, it sounds like a Florida party.
Yeah, no, it was like, cause that's the thing with Napa is like Napa's got a little bit of Florida in it.
Yeah?
Like, yeah, for sure. Like it dresses up as like bougie and, wine country tourist, but like...
But it's still booze all the time.
Yeah, no, people dress it up any way you want. You're all just...
You're just drunks.
You're just fucked up all the time, and all the parents are fucked up on pills. It's fucking awesome, dude.
Oh yeah, you tell that story about the Little League.
There was Little League moms fucking ripping Norcos during the game and Vicodin and fucking... Yeah, people like to dress it up, but people get down in Napa for sure.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
So what you had mentioned, and then we're going to, I really want to figure out the comedy aspect and the New Zealand thing, but you had mentioned your parents letting you drink at a party. And I'm assuming this happened around that same time frame.
Yeah. So this would have been like the first winter break of sophomore year. I'd been to like 2 or 3 parties before, but I was like, I really want to go to this party, but I can't, like there just wasn't a window to sneak out in.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me see if I got, so I went up to my parents and I was like,
here's a crazy idea. Let me just ask.
I put on my fucking junior kid lawyer pants right here. And I was like, all right, look, there is a party tonight. I want to go. I have a DD. I'll be back by whatever time you want, but I do want to go to this party. And I would rather do it this way than try and sneak out later, because eventually this is just kids doing at-risk, behavior in their youth. I would rather just be upfront and be honest with you and have a safe drinking and drug relationship rather than try and like sneak around you behind your back where, you never know. If kids might be like drunk driving. I like basically gave them all the worst case scenarios to let me do it.
Yeah.
What'd
they say?
They said yes. I got to go to the party.
Fuck yeah.
No, and honestly, like that sentiment remained there like the whole time I was partying in high school. Like if they wouldn't like let me go party all the time, but like there was like a...
Well, they understood, you're going to go. And that's the thing. Like I said, with all the different guests we've had on, there are some parents where I've realized that, like, that's a thing where they're like, well, we raised you. we understand the values that we instilled in you.
I was also the baby too.
And we-
they
oh,
didn't.
really?
They didn't give a shit anymore.
How many
They-
siblings do you have?
2.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
they're 7 and 5 years older than me. So
Oh, yeah, so
considerably
you were-
older. And also like my brother was a little bit of a troublemaker, and then my sister was like really goody two shoes.
Yeah.
So I think when they saw, also they were both smart. They were both very, very smart. Like a little bit of hotheads, both of them, but like very smart. Always took care of their shit. So I think once they like graduated high school and college, they were like, yeah, you'll be fine.
Yeah, we've seen it before.
Yeah.
You're going to be okay.
And so they were just like, yeah, do whatever. And they were jealous because they had to like hide hangovers junior and senior year of high school. Meanwhile, I'm like,
You're just like coming down like, hey, you guys.
yeah, I'm like passed out on the couch, and my brother's like, this is fucking bullshit. Like I had to go pull trig in my like bedroom bathroom so to not make noise, and like just shit like that. Where
Yeah.
it's like,
God, that's
but-
intense.
but yeah, I was like, whatever.
How long did the so you did that all through high school?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, and then what happened with because I wanted to get into New Zealand. How did you end up there? You went to Auckland, right?
Yeah, so I lived in Auckland for a year. I was living in San Francisco during the pandemic.
Okay.
I was finishing up school there.
So let's get back on the timeline. So you're in high school, you're having the parties, you're doing the rugby club, you graduate high school, and then where do you go from there?
So I lost a tooth, got a concussion, fucked up my Achilles all in 1 year
In rugby?
in rugby.
Okay.
And I was like,
I was gonna say that's a great story if it's not rugby.
yeah, no. I was just like, I think I'm good. Like, because the real reason I was playing for such a long time was to like get to, like, the idea was to like get to like a sevens national
Yeah, that's what I figured, yeah.
tournament sort of thing. But I was at community college, so I could never like make like the real like college team.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't get in to the school that I was trying to get into. So that plan had sort of like faded already.
So you went to after high school, you went to community college, and you were still doing like club rugby.
Yeah, but I could play for like the B side for Cal Poly.
Yeah.
So I could play for them on their B side, but like when it came to like official games, I couldn't technically play for them.
Because you didn't go.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was like already around the club. I was like, that was my social group and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But once I didn't get in, I was like, well.
And then you applied to the school, and
yeah,
they were just
and
like, oh, no,
I got waitlisted, and I was like, I think I got like I tried to like pull some strings, just didn't happen.
God, man.
Got hurt, but then I think at the end of the day, like, it would have been fine.
Yeah.
I could have gotten the chance to play, and that would have been nice, but it didn't happen.
Yeah,
and
it's the old Chinese proverb. We'll see.
yeah.
We'll see.
So then I started doing some open mics. It was like once a month, but
yeah. So this is immediately after rugby. Did you always have an affinity for comedy?
Loved
stand
comedy. Loved it. Like ever since I was
stand up specifically.
Yeah.
Okay. Because sometimes people are like, "Yeah, I loved comedy. Seinfeld was my favorite show," and I'm like, "Not the same
No,
thing."
it was It was so I always say Bill Burr got me into stand up.
Mhm.
Tom Segura made me want to do it, and Dan Soder's the guy that like I kind of want to like look to be like as far as like a career wise. So
Yeah.
it's like those three that were like the chapters of where I'm currently. But like yeah,
And that's the crazy thing about living in New York.
yeah,
Like you've met.
dude.
I'm assuming you've met most of them.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. Like I had Caitlin Palufo on my show.
Friend of the show.
Yeah, she's been on. I listened to
Yeah,
that episode.
yeah.
But it's like weird a little bit to like sort of be like I've seen Dave Attell smoking on the street corner, and like I just gave him like a nod. But like
I have a bit about it. That's what introduced me to Dave Attell. Like how we got to talking was smoking.
Yeah, but
Like,
it's
outside smoking a cigarette, and then we just shooting the shit.
It's weird how close you can get to your heroes in comedy.
Yeah, I love it. It's one of my, and I've told the story before on the show, but like one of the things I love about living in New York is it's like a comedy festival. It's like the biggest comedy festival in the world every night.
Yeah, all the time.
And these are like people that I look up to, and obviously some of them, you would even say you model your career after and things like that. Like I've had the opportunity just because, we do the other podcast, The Power of How, with Matt Fulcheron and Daniel Torado, and they've been doing comedy much longer than I have. So they know a lot of these people. So they'll just introduce me. And like I've told the story before, but the Bill Burr thing where Matt was hanging out with him, and then Matt went to leave, and he was like, but you can still, like, he's still there if you want to go hang out, but I'm going home. I'm tired. And I got off of work, and I, as fast as I could, got there. And I'm just standing near him, listening to him and Paul Verzi talk. And I was like, ha, ha, ha. And then Bill turns and he goes, are you going to join the fucking conversation or just stand there like a fucking creep? And I was like, I didn't want to interrupt. He goes, well, you interrupted now.
Yeah. And
then we ended up like just talking. Immediately brought up the football thing because I know they like football. And then boom, you're in. Then you just talk and you're hanging out and you're like, this fucking guy's the reason I love comedy. And now we're just hanging out.
It's weird. But yeah, I started in like a little beach town.
Yeah.
Loved it. Was nervous every time. I still get a little nerves now, but like every time it was like a fucking train wreck of anxiety. But like I felt like literally like 40 pounds lighter every time I got like, it was just like I literally just, I don't know. It was I just knew I had something I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Moved to San Francisco for school after that.
Where did you end up going? If you don't mind.
SF State.
Okay.
But still wasn't doing it nearly as much as I wanted to.
Big comedy in San Francisco.
Yeah.
Dan Venti, friend of my show, who lives in Jacksonville now, was there. That's where
Ryan Thomas.
Yeah.
That's where I originally met Ryan Thomas.
Really?
Yeah.
That's insane.
He like barely remembered me. Like he kind of like I came to New York and he was like kind of like look at me.
You remembered him though, right?
Yeah, cool. Because he was like one of the funny people in San Francisco when I was starting. So I was like fucking eating shit at every open mic. And I was like, holy shit.
He's just destroying.
Yeah, he's like 3 years in. He's he's got himself together. Like he's good.
Taylor Tomlinson, she's from San Francisco too, isn't she?
I think that was before my time.
Yeah, well, I'm assuming it was before, but I was trying to think of all the names I know from there.
Vishal Kaul, I think I remember him.
Brian Simpson? Or was that San Diego?
That's San Diego. I
think.
Okay. But it was a good scene, but I was in school, I was working.
Just eating a dick at open mics.
Yeah, and I'd go like, twice a week maybe. Yeah. And then
so you went from once a month to twice a week.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic hits.
And there was also like breaks in between because I was moving at certain spots.
Yeah, happens, trust me, I took a 3-year break. Yeah. And then when I came back and everyone's like, oh, you just started. And I go, no. Yeah. It's not really how this works.
But so I did it for like a few months and then the pandemic happened and I'm like I'm still like waiting to get back into it like and then it just isn't happening like
when you're in California everything's shut down.
Everything's shut down.
I'm in Florida. We opened in December.
Yeah.
I did a show. We closed in March. By December I was doing a show for 250 people. Yeah,
that wasn't so in June I'm like this isn't happening.
So June
I already
20. So March everything shuts down, and then by June you're like, what the fuck's going on?
I'm looking for anything.
Yeah,
like I need something to like change. Like I can't be living in my childhood bedroom anymore. I feel like bad all the time. I'm literally like my day is like waking up, going to my one like online class, and then playing Fortnite and getting stoned all day, and I hate it.
And you're living at home at the time.
Yeah. So I'm like, this has to stop. So I already had flight credit to go to New Zealand March 20th, 2020. Obviously got canceled because of the pandemic.
So you were already going to go.
Yeah. We were going for like a family reunion. I had a flight booked, and New Zealand in like July, like had no COVID at all.
Yeah. Cause they locked everything down.
Yeah. They shut it down. So then I'm like, I think I'm just going to go. My idea was like, I'll go for the rest of 2020. COVID will be taken care of by then. It'll be all good. Obviously, it didn't happen. So I just like kept.
This I find this fascinating, though. When did you officially go there?
August.
And how did you get, so you said March the pandemic hits, and then you said by June you were kind of like this, I'm fucking over this. And then by August
I booked my flight in June.
Okay, when you were over
August.
Got it.
I was like, I'm gonna, I'll make some money.
One way?
Yeah. And I was like, I'll get the return flight whenever, sort of thing.
Your passport is?
I have a New Zealand and a U.S. passport. Dual citizen. So that's the only reason I could get into the country at the time.
That's why I asked.
Yeah. So
it doesn't say they weren't letting outsiders in.
Nope. So then I did a 2-week isolation at a quarantine facility in Auckland at the airport, which was really just a hotel.
Yeah.
But, 2 weeks, can't leave. You're like...
What was that like?
A little weird. It wasn't honestly the end of the world. Like there's like different hotels or different like facilities did it different ways. I was allowed to go outside whenever I wanted, but not if there was too many people outside. Mm-hmm. It was odd, but like after day 11, you're like, I need to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
And then you're out, and then it's COVID free, and like you're just in normal.
You can just do whatever you want.
You do normal life again.
Yeah. So what did you start doing? Like, what'd you do for work? And did your dad hook you up with like a place to stay, or? So
I stayed with my sister and her now fiance for a couple weeks.
They live in New Zealand?
Yeah.
Curveball. Didn't see that coming.
Yeah, no. She moved there like 6 years ago and then just stayed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I stayed with them for a few weeks, and then during the time, New Zealand didn't have any tourism, obviously. So I did long-term Airbnb, which was like 65% off. So I got like this 1-bedroom like granny unit in someone's backyard with like brand new furnished, like fucking literally they like just opened it because they're like, oh, this will be the perfect time to have an Airbnb. Obviously no one's there. So then I stayed there for like 4 months, and it was fucking awesome.
Yeah. Pennies on the dollar.
Yeah. And
then what are you doing? Are you partying?
I'm bartending.
You're bartending, and then are you partying and stuff in New Zealand?
Yeah. No, I mean, the thing with, I didn't have any friends.
Yeah.
So like I have my family there, but like I had all of like my bartenders who were all like other foreigners. So there's like me, a French guy, 2 Mexican guys, Indian girl. Like we're all like this like ragtag group of immigrants.
Again with the ragtag group.
Yeah.
It's your rugby team, just in New Zealand.
It's but like fun. Yeah. And I worked at 2, so I worked at one bar, and then on the same street I managed this pizza place and bar.
Okay.
So I was technically I was like bartending both, and then eventually I became a manager at the one spot. So I just like I have my friends from one place go to the other, and we just like literally like bounce back and forth across the street. Yeah, it was sick. And I got to see like how Kiwis party outside of like just my family.
Yeah.
And fuck, man, they go
hard.
They go hard, and they also, it doesn't matter how old you are. Like the bar that I worked at, there was 18-year-olds and 70-year-olds at the same bar, listening to the same music, drinking the same shit.
Just getting after it.
Yeah, like, and you'd be surprised how many old people are bad at handling their shit.
Yeah. You told me that story that one time you guys had to carry somebody out.
Yeah, there was a guy who fucking, like I walked in from my other job. I was like, if you need cover, I can like help cover, blah, blah, blah. I walked in, and this guy's fucked up. He's like,
you walked in from the pizza place to the bar?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm like, this guy's ripped, like gone. I immediately cut him off. Like I walk in, and I'm like, you're not drinking. You're like, who the fuck are you? And I'm like, I work here. You're cut off.
You're done, yeah.
And then my other coworkers are fucking stupid. They are giving his friends like full pitchers of beer.
Yeah.
And giving them like however many glasses they need. So he's still like throwing back beers. And I'm like, you cannot give this guy more alcohol.
Individual servings, yeah.
Yeah.
We're not doing pitchers for this group.
And so his friends leave him because like they're going somewhere else.
And he just can't go.
Yeah, and so I get there, and I'm like, if you just need a couple of hours of like some service, I got you. I get there, I clock in, clock out. They're like, just go check the bathrooms because I'm the new guy at this bar.
Mm-hmm.
Go check the bathrooms, which is standard for any restaurant, especially if you're the new guy. Go check the bathrooms. I go in, and he has fallen through the stall door.
Yeah. With
his pants down, soaked in his own piss and vomit, passed out. And I go back, and I'm like, well, certainly that's not my job, right? And they're like, no, you're the new guy. This is why we hire new guys. And I'm like,
oh my God, certainly that's not my job.
And they're like, that's for sure you. And I'm like, fuck. So me and like one of the chefs are like trying to wake him up. He won't wake up. And I'm like, honestly, I was pretty proud with how I handled. I like, all right, give me all the bar rags that we have, and I like covered him in that so we didn't have to like touch his body that was soaked in piss and vomit.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like we're stilting him out of the bar, and people see him and his pants are like still falling down. So like one person's holding him by the armpits, one person's holding his pants up. People are like yelling at us like, you have to call him an ambulance. I'm like, he's awake. He's just too drunk to stand right now.
Yeah. So he was conscious at this point.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's like yelling at us. He's fucking calling us a bunch of slurs, and it's like, all right, man, fucking whatever. So one of my other coworkers, who's like a sweet kid but so naive, he's like, he's a human being. You can't just throw him out on the street. And I was like, yeah, but he also knew coming in here that he couldn't break our stall door and soak himself in his piss and vomit.
And as a recovering alcoholic, I completely understand the sentiment to be like, let's get as fucked up as humanly possible. But you do it to yourself.
Yeah.
So like all the times I got thrown out of a bar, you know who I never held a grudge against? The people throwing me out of the fucking bar. Because it's like, yeah, you got me. You got me.
No, I mean, that's what, honestly, I love those guys where it's like they get thrown out and it's like, what are you going to do? You know, you win some, you lose some.
I pushed it. You can't find the line unless you cross it. You know what I mean? All right. I'll see you guys later.
And so fucking, we're like, we almost get him out. My coworker's like, he's a human being. You can't just throw him out on the street. And I'm like,
you carry him then.
yeah. So literally I was like, all right, where do I put him? And he's like, put him on like, we have like this little lounge. There's like super nice like leather couches. Like, sit him in the lounge. And I'm like, I don't think that's a good idea, but okay. We like literally plop his ass on the chair, and he immediately like curls up and like throws up all over himself, hits the floor, and it's like,
we said it's not a good idea.
And then he immediately goes, I think that's my fault. And I'm like, I think so too. Like,
now that's on you.
Yeah, no. And so I'm like, whatever. This Russian chick's yelling at us. We like take his phone out of his pocket, and there's like his friend has like a bunch of like missed calls from his friend. Call his friend. His friend's on the way to pick him up. We're like about to like him and his friend and us are all like carrying him out of the bar again.
Yeah.
And he falls over, and we like can't lift him back up. He's like dead weight at this point. I'm like, all right, I'll go get the swivel chair from the back. We'll put him in there, and then we'll wheel him out. And then we literally are like fucking 15 feet away from the door. We're about to like push him through. He falls out of the chair. We are picking him back up. There's like 5 people picking his ass. He's like a 5'10", 300-pound guy. He's a thick dude.
Yeah.
Some customer who's just nice enough to help is like lifting him from his ass, and his pants have been falling down this whole time. He shits his pants on the guy's hand. Like, obviously it's drunk diarrhea hand. Yeah. The guy holds it up like just like sort of like silent, and is just like, mate, this is not good. And it's just like fucking, we're all like, dude, you don't pay for your drinks tonight. Like, you're good. Shits his pants, and then so I'm like, all right, well, we basically wheelbarrow him out. So we put his head in the chair.
Yeah.
But like I'm just carrying like
his feet.
The fucking legs of his jeans, and like we like wheel him out. We like get him out to the car. He wakes up out of nowhere, punches my female manager in the face. She dodges the next two. She was taking a kickboxing class at the time. We like push him in, and she goes, "Wait, we forgot to buckle his seatbelt." And I was like, "That doesn't." If he survived this far, he's good. Like he doesn't need any more.
Oh my God. So was that a common thing in New Zealand where people were getting that messed up?
Yeah. Like that's like my worst horror story of like working in hospitality ever. But
what is the accidental drugging that happened to you in New Zealand too, didn't it?
Yeah. So that same bar, a few weeks later, I got off of a shift, and I was drinking with these like young 20-somethings from Wellington, which is like on the other side of the North Island, further down south. And they seem like some of them are like
dudes, chicks,
both.
Okay.
I think it was like 4 and 4, if I had to guess. And I get off. We're like hanging out. We're playing pool. They get like a round of drinks. It was like espresso martini shots or whatever.
All right.
And they're like, yeah, like just go ahead and grab one. And like they're like, one guy's like handing it out from the group, and I take one, and I didn't have much to drink that night. I think I had on my tab there was like 2 drinks, and I was only there for like a little bit. But I take this, and I don't remember anything else after.
Really? So
like
as soon as you took it,
fully no recollection at all, nothing. Like I remember a little bit, like the walk home that night, but like a snapshot. I remember walking home and being like, how the fuck am I walking home? And then I remember waking up the next day, late for work, having pissed my bed, and being like, my jeans just fully soaked. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. The first time in my life where I woke up and I was like, I don't know what.
So do you have any idea? Did you talk to like your bartender friends, or do you have any idea
They
what
were like,
happened?
you left your tab open, you Irish goodbye, and we didn't see you. And they looked at the tab and it was like, you had 3 drinks the whole night.
Yeah.
And I was like, they've seen me have 7, 8. Like
You've tied one on.
I've tied one on there. And they're like, well, what'd you do? And I was like, I have no idea. And so like the only thing that I think I figured out in my head was like any rationalization is like, I took the wrong drink that was meant for someone else, unless
You're a hero.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah, no, exactly.
I have a very good friend, Matthew Fagerberg. He's a great actor. He's been on the show before. Same kind of thing happened to him, except it was much more obvious. Where the bartender, he was at his girlfriend at the time's show, like she was doing a burlesque show, so he was there, and then her mom had come down to see it, and her mom was very attractive, and the bartender was like, "Oh, here," to the mom, and the mom's like, "Oh no, I'm driving," and he goes, "No, just take the drink, just take the drink." And she's like, "No, I'm driving." And so Matthew was like, "Oh, I'll do the drink," and just pounded it. And the bartender was like, "Okay." And similar story, like blacked out completely. Was like waking up and like every like he would come to like every hour or so and be like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Yeah, no, and I mean, like I've heard of bars doing that too. The only reason I don't think it's that is because I worked at the bar.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like, I know.
So my deduction would say that the guy who was because you said there was a guy from the group passing out the drink.
Yeah, he like put it gave it, and I was like didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
And
so he must have.
I don't know. Literally.
And it's so dangerous too because people don't understand like people. I think what it is it's the naivete. Naivety.
Yeah.
But like as someone who's done drugs in the past, like a lot of drugs and drank way too much, I understand like, okay, you only need this much of substance X to get the result you're looking for. But people who don't do that, people who are just like incels or just like, oh, I just want to like knock this person out, like they have no idea what they're doing.
No, I mean, it's a crazy...
Because they don't deal in, as Drew Tessier says, the chemical dependency arts. So they don't know what they're doing.
No.
And you could fucking kill someone pretty easily.
Yeah, no.
You could have died.
It was. I was like,
you're a hero.
I was sure, but I also, I'm not walking around like, dude, I'm the fucking man. I got drugged this weekend. Like, I'm like,
no, obviously, but you should walk around and say, I saved you.
No, I was like, someone had a better night than I did for sure.
Some lady got to go home safely that night.
Yeah. But no, my thing with any of that is like, I don't know how you even like begin to start that process. Where it's like
no idea.
You got to be a real fucked up guy, and there's apparently a collection of fucked up guys.
It happens more often than you think.
Yeah, no.
But just from doing the show, I've realized. God, that's the third time I've said that. But just it happens more often than you think.
Yeah.
Were you doing comedy in New Zealand?
No.
So you weren't doing stand up at all?
No, there was like a small scene there, but
how did you find that? How do you even know that there's a small scene? Did you like look into
Facebook,
it when you get
I from the two like smaller scenes I saw like between San Luis Obispo, San Francisco, it was like, yeah, you just get on Facebook, you look up your city and then comedy.
I tell people that all the time. Every city has a scene,
and there's gonna be something. But it was like, a few open mics a week, but like kind of canceled day of and everything.
Yeah.
Was
plus, as a bartender, you're working mostly at night and stuff too. So
yeah, but it was all like that's not what I went there to do. Like in my head, I was like, I'm coming here to like be in New Zealand and like hang out and like I was glad I did, honestly. I think it would have been like maybe cool to be doing an open mic here or there, but really I felt like I was glad to like be around my family and then also like sort of see what it's like to live in New Zealand. And I don't know.
Well, plus that's a weird thing too with comedy. Because like you said, it's so abundant. Like every place has a scene and stuff. And after moving to New York, I was doing that thing where it's like, oh, well, if I'm going to go home to like see my family, got to do some shows, got to book some shows.
Yeah.
and you kind of lose sight of like the going home to see the family. So it's like you said, it's like, well, no, sometimes you just want to go experience something for what it is.
Yeah, and it was also
and you don't
like,
have to do comedy.
I don't know how much it would have like helped me because I moved here after New Zealand.
That's the thing. You're in New Zealand for a year, and then what happens in your head where you're like, all right, I'm going back to the States, like COVID calmed down, and then you're like, all right, I'm out of here?
Well, in my head, it was like I always wanted to get back to comedy, but like COVID kept on getting extended. It was just like everything kind of kept being put on pause.
Yeah.
So in my head, I always wanted to like get back to it. But there was another
setback.
And so like I planned to come back December of 2020. And then, you know, like I said, just again and again and again, got pushed back. And then finally in like August, everything seems to be opening up in like 2021. And I'm like, I think I'm ready to go back. Bartended for 6 months in Napa with the idea that like I'm either going to New York, LA, or Austin.
Okay.
Went to all 3 places to visit, like get a sense of what it was like. And I figured like New York was like the spot where it would be easiest to just get up and go. LA, traffic's a mess. Austin is like a little quiet and I don't love the city as much. New York was the most intimidating, but it was like also like I can just leave my apartment and I can go hit 3 mics today.
Yeah.
Like no
We can
matter
do that
what.
right now after the show.
Like easy. And so for me as someone who's always had like a hard time like staying on task with certain things, it was I felt like it was going to be the easiest for me to just get out and like go do it. Because all you have to do is leave your apartment and then the city kind of like takes you wherever you need to go.
How often do you do that where you're sitting at home and maybe you have a day off from work or something? You're like, I need to get out of the apartment. And then next thing you know, you're like, oh my God, I did like 3 mics today and I didn't even expect to leave the apartment.
All the time. Like,
yeah, that's what I tell people.
it's-
There's sometimes where I'll get off of work because the listeners know I work at a swanky steakhouse. It's it's a night job. And I know everyone's like, oh, you got to quit. It's like, I can't. Like, come on, man. I can make my rent in a weekend. Like, I don't want to quit. But there are times where I'll get off early, like 9 or 10. And my first instinct is walk to the train to go home. And I'm like, wait a second. The reason I love it
You're
is
in the
because
Mecca for comedy.
it's equidistance from the cellar and the stand. So it's like, I can just go watch some of the best comics in the world on a show. And most of the time, the managers will just let me walk into the room like and sit. Like they won't charge. So it's like, no, I'm going to go do that instead.
Yeah.
Because it's just living in New York, man. It's like fucking nuts.
No, and it's I'm in a place now where I'm working like either 10 to 5 or 11 to 5 for all my days. So like I get off at 5:30 and then like I have the rest of the day to like go and do all my comedy shit after.
Yeah, which is perfect.
Yeah, so that's been really cool.
Are you still I wanted to ask just because, the drugging situation and all that. Are you still bartending?
I'm serving now.
Okay. Moving up in the world.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to bartend at the restaurant I'm at, but they just didn't have any openings.
Yeah.
And then they didn't have any serving openings. And so I honestly like fucking grinded for like almost a full year to get to where I'm at
As
now.
like a server assistant, like SA Buster kind of thing?
Yeah.
Oh!
Fucking
you took
brutal.
a huge step down.
Yep.
It's a nice restaurant, though? You like working there?
It's perfect for where I'm at now. They're like it's in like Bushwick. They're very like sympathetic to like artist types. They like let all of these like guys and bands like go on tour and whatnot.
That's why I love my place. Like that's the other big thing too, is that not only the money we make, but they're so understanding. Yeah. Like today we were talking about it and I was tired and we had to record and I didn't want to go in. But like if I called and I was genuinely like, hey, so-and-so wants me to open for him, like I can't make it. They'd be like, yeah, absolutely. No problem. Yeah. Don't even worry about it.
And so like that's another thing. And also like once you get into serving there, people serve there. Like there's one guy who worked there for like 10 years before moving to a sister restaurant of the same company.
Yeah. Career servers.
Yeah.
I tell people that that's what New York is great for.
Yeah.
You could come up here and make a lot of money just waiting tables.
And like I was not very I was not living very large for a long time, but now that I'm in that role, like I work 4 days a week and I'm fine.
Yeah.
Like
I tell people,
and I still have all my nights now too.
Yeah, that's the trick.
And like I don't like, was it shitty doing fucking closing like back waiter like bussing shifts?
Yeah.
For like 4 weekend months in a row. Like yeah, it sucked. But now I'm at a place where I'm like I've done that, and I'm
You've done the open mics. Now you're fucking featuring, baby.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, it's and it gives me I'm much more free to just do comedy and like I don't feel like I have to like try and squeeze anything in before.
Yeah,
like,
that's where I'm at now, which is frustrating because I talked to Ethan about this, but I thought I was going to move to New York and be like, been doing comedy since 2009. Like I got my hour, I got the podcast, like let's rip it and run it. And I got here and they're like, how many followers?
Yeah, no,
a little over 1,000. Yeah, the open mics are that way, buddy.
Yeah, no,
and I'm like, wait, what?
That's why like I'm kind of. People always say like don't start here.
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad I am because I can grow within the scene, which is like obviously like the best scene in the world, and also like no one's really expecting much. I don't have to expect too much of myself too.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing is
Well,
like
that's the other thing too is if you do make the connections. Like I had a few friends here before I moved, so I moved here, and you know they're bigger comics, so they're like, "Oh yeah, we'll just throw you up on a guest spot on a show." And then if you don't do well, they're like, "What the fuck, man?" Like. You basically were tooting this horn like you got it, and then you went up and fucking bombed. Like, yeah, you need to go to the open mics. And like, my bad, guys.
Yeah, whoops, sorry.
I wanted to ask you, we've got time for one more story. This very interesting story. 80 Acres of Fun is what you texted me.
Yeah.
So this is back home, I'm assuming.
This is in Napa.
Yeah.
I want to say this is like the summer before senior year of high school.
Okay.
And this girl who's a year older than me, she's home from college from like for the summer or whatever, and her parents just bought this like 80-acre vineyard property. Or maybe I was a junior. I forget. It was before, whatever.
Before late in your high school career.
Yeah. So she is like, she's like in the text. She's like, I want this to be like Project X. She's like, I've met her. She's like a quiet. Like, she's not the fucking project. I think it was just like a...
Project X was that party movie, right?
Yeah, where it's like these kids like had a party and then all of a sudden like there's like cop helicopters surrounding.
Yeah. I remember it came out a few like pretty far after Superbad, and I was like, oh, this is just like the Superbad for this generation.
Yeah. But funny enough, it was actually based off like a real Australian party.
Oh,
like,
really?
Yeah, like some like fucking high schooler. I'll show you the video after. He's fucking hilarious. He's like on the news after.
I have seen this video.
Yeah, and he's like, nah, I don't feel bad. It's I fucking had a good party. So if you want a good party, you know, fucking hit
I
me
remember
up.
This. Oh my God, I completely forgot. That's what I didn't realize.
Some fucking bogan like 15-year-old just fucking being the coolest guy ever.
So she said she wanted the party to be like that.
Yeah, so she's like, invite everyone you know. And then like we're all like, you know, 15 to 18-year-olds being like, oh, sweet, there's a place to go drink and do drugs.
Yeah. And you guys had social media.
And we had social media. So people like shared it on like Instagram and all this shit. What ended up happening was I ended up like at the party because like it got out of hand, but I was like having fun with like the social experiment-ness of it. I started asking people, I'm like, where are you from? Like I've never seen... Like there's like 300 people at the party. I've never seen 200 of them.
Yeah, so where are they coming from?
There was guys I played rugby against from like neighboring towns. There ended up being 20 different cities at this party, all from like the Bay Area. One guy was from like Santa Cruz, which is like 3.5 hours, or like 3 hours away from Napa. Yeah. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here? And he's like,
I came to party, mate.
Yeah, no, he's just like, yeah, I came to party. And I was like, I guess, yeah, sure, man.
So what ends up happening?
I mean, chaos ensues. It's too many people. She's a dumb 18-year-old girl who's in over her head. Grown men started showing up to the party, and like
she's in over her head.
Fucking, and then we're like, all the kids are like talking shit to these like fucking
adults.
Yeah, adults who were at this high school party. Like, you guys are fucking losers. They start calling us names. Eventually, people just start throwing like full cans of Coors Light at each other.
What?
Dude, I saw this chick. I feel so bad for laughing at it, but I saw this chick get decked with a full banquet, dude. Fucking, just fucking, dude. It was like a snap. It was like it looked like special effects. She ended up being okay, which is like, thank God. But like,
gets decked with a full banquet.
Dude, it was like the fucking splash it had when it fucking like it popped open too. Fucking just
You got to hit those hard to pop them open.
Well, if people are like shaking
Yeah,
because
and then-
you want it to be like, I don't know. People are. It's literally chaos.
Did you throw any beers?
No beers. No.
Sounded like you were like,
No,
you're like, no, you got to shake it so that way.
But
I mean, I didn't do it.
I was like watching this go down, just like, dude, like anytime chaos ensues and I'm not directly involved, it's my favorite.
That's why you love Matthew Silver on stage.
I love seeing chaos from a distance.
Yeah.
It's my favorite thing. And so,
You're an agent of chaos.
yes, the cops get called, but it's an 80-acre, like it's a massive property.
Yeah.
And there's like cars all around this like 2-mile long driveway. So the cops would patrol part of the party.
Yeah.
And then we'd all just like move to the other part.
genius.
And so like, but then it's like still like, no, like eventually she also called the cops on herself. She
Yeah.
was like, please help me.
Yeah.
This, like, I need you here now.
I'm in over my head.
Yeah. And so there was fights galore. Like,
So then the cops showed up and eventually broke it all up.
well, that's, yeah, kind of. So the first car in the line in front of the gate, they're like, we need someone to move this car and then we can get everyone out of here. There's 2 cars in front. They finally get the guy whose car it is, and he goes, oh, my buddy took my keys. So then it's another 45 minutes until any of us can leave. And then he leaves, and he had someone else's keys. So then the second car behind his.
Oh my God.
So it was an hour and a half that we're like all in our cars waiting to go, and we just can't go. So like then people start getting out and like partying again and
Yeah.
fighting again. Dude, like I don't know,
That's
fucking
a disaster.
yeah, crazy. And then we just like get home at like 4:50 in the morning, and we're like, not bad. Fucking we like honestly partied for like 2 hours of that 6-hour night,
Yeah.
but it was
fun.
It was a story. It was like fucking this girl is so dumb, but now it gave me like a point of like maybe don't try and throw the biggest party.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe-
maybe just hang out with the people that you like.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming
Dude,
on,
thanks for
Matt.
having
This
me.
was a
This was-
blast. Plug
yeah.
everything one more time. Kiwi Bagel, the
Kiwi
podcast.
Bagel Comedy. Next show is April 13th. Ralph Barboza is headlining. I'm really excited for that show. Common Enemies Podcast. And then you can follow me on Instagram at Matt Hansell, 2Ls.biz.
.biz. Thank you, everybody, so much for listening. At Brennan T Comedy on all social media, BrennanTComedy.com. Get your ex-drinking buddy merch. The one-man show will be, the final edit will be posted in the next couple of weeks, so keep an eye out for that. And subscribe on Patreon. We'll talk to y'all next week.
Thanks, man.
That was awesome, dude.
Whew.